Macaulay Mann, candidate number 9356. I observed a prop forward, which is number 8. A prop forward's objective is, when receiving the ball, to gain as much distance on the pitch as possible. One strength skill that I saw was the long pass. In preparation for this, the player extended his arms fully, rotated his wrists so that his fingers were pointing up, and shouted to his teammates for the ball. He then received the ball, and because of the W shape of his hands, it was easier to catch. In the execution, he adducted the ball to his right hip and then to his left shoulder in one quick movement. This placed momentum on the ball, and when he released it, there was more force on the ball and it travelled to the second rower. In recovery for this, the player got into the attacking line and moved forward with the team. The result was the second rower was able to cover more distance than the prop would have been able to, as he would have been tackled. The second skill strength that I saw was the tackle. In preparation for this, the prop got in line with the attacking runner. In the execution, he placed cheek to cheek, shoulder to thigh, arms around the hinge joint at the knee, squeezed the back of the knee and did a defensive roll technique, which is where the prop sits down and rolls the player, shifting momentum from the player's run to the ground. The result was that the tackle was completed. A third strength skill was the offload. In preparation for this, the player was tackled, but in the execution, before the ball carrying arm touches the floor, he threw the ball to a teammate of his. In recovery, he stood back up, got with the attacking line, and the result was that his teammate carried on the play instead of conceding a tackle. A weakness in skills that I saw was a pop pass. In the preparation, the prop had his arms fully extended, had his hands in the right position, but in the execution he popped the ball too high, and this meant that his teammate had to reach for the ball, leaving his body exposed for the tackle. In recovery, the player moved with the attacking line, but the result was that the tackle was completed and there was more distance to go over than there would have been if the pop pass was done accurately. A second weakness would be the grubber kick, as in the preparation, the arms were extended fully outwards, the right leg was flexed, and the foot was pointing upwards instead of down. This is dorsiflexion instead of plantar, which is the appropriate way to do a grubber kick. In the execution, the player extended the leg, dropped the ball and kicked it, but as the foot was not in the correct position, the ball travelled upwards instead of rolling on the floor like a grubber kick should. In recovery, the player stood with the defensive line, but the result was that the ball travelled too far and there was no chance of the attacking team getting the ball back. This meant that it was a turnover. A third weakness would be the handoff. In preparation, the arm was flexed, but in the execution, it wasn't extended fully, it was partially flexed, meaning that the tricep was not the agonist, which it should be in the handoff, meaning that there was not enough forward momentum in the arm to push the player back, leaving a gap for the prop to run through. there were 3 strength tactics that I saw. One was creating a gap in the defensive line by using a dummy run. A dummy run is where the prop, in this case, shouts for the ball and moves forward as if they're going to catch the ball, but the dummy half passes to another team player. This creates an illusion for the defence and shifts the defensive line, creates gaps for the person who received the ball to run through the gaps. Another tactical strength was kicking early to catch the opposing team off guard. The prop kicked on the 3rd tackle, which is usually on the 5th. This confused the defensive line, and the fullback was not in position and had to track back into their own half to receive the ball to carry on with the play. Another tactical strength was a spiral kick. It was high, it had great speed, and the fullback was not prepared and he knocked on. This meant that it was a turnover in their own half. A tactical weakness that I saw was the grubber kick to the wing. It didn't reach the target, and it meant it was easily caught by the opposing team, and they were able to catch it and carry on with the play instead of having a struggle to catch it, or the the attacking team able to catch it and carry on with their set of 6. Instead it was passed over. Another tactical weakness was the 40-20. It had no height and it didn't go to the 20-metre line, and because it went out on the full, it meant that the opposing team got to start the play from where the ball was kicked. Another tactical weakness was the charge down. In the charge down, there wasn't sufficient pressure put on the kicker. The prop was too far back, meaning that there was more angles to kick the ball instead of being closer and there only being a few angles to kick. This meant that because there was no pressure, the opposing kicker was able to kick the ball much further and make the defensive team start further back in their half. A fitness strength was the isometric strength in the scrum. Isometric strength is the ability of muscles to exert force. So in the scrum, the prop was able to hold the position of the attacking team while the ball was played. Another was power in tackling, which is the body's ability to exert maximum muscular contraction. It's a good thing to have power in the tackling, because then if you didn't have sufficient power, you wouldn't be able to stop momentum of the running players, meaning they would be able to run through the defensive line. Another strength is the power in the handoff. The prop was able to contract the tricep brachial, push it into the opponent's chest with enough forward momentum to create a gap, which the prop could run through the gap and then create more distance on the pitch. A fitness weakness I saw was speed in chasing down a player, which is the body's ability to move and change direction. Because the prop is endomorphic, meaning he has more fat than muscle, he was unable to catch the smaller, quicker, more agile players, and this meant that they were able to run away from him and score a try. Another weakness is cardiovascular fitness, which is cardiovascular stamina, which is the rate of which oxygen transports. Because the prop is endomorphic, he wasn't able, and his cardiovascular fitness was low, he wasn't able to sustain the game. He wasn't able to go through the full 80 minutes of the game without being tired. Another weakness was the agility to avoid players. Agility is the body's ability to move and change direction. If a prop is agile, he will have power and force to run at players and create a gap, and then with the gap he would be able to move in and out and move around players instead of running through them. So he would create gaps and go through them, covering more distance. Out of the 9 weaknesses I saw, I've chosen to do a performance plan on agility, because it's better to have a prop that is more agile than just running straight at players and using force to push through, because a prop will be able to move much quicker and he'd have more force. I will be using the Illinois agility test, which is a ladder placed on the ground, which then a performer will step in and out of the segments on the ladder, different methods. I will be doing it for 6 weeks because I feel that it's long enough to sustain the training. It's easy to develop, and the league is closing soon, which means, well, the last games of the season are coming up, and if the team gets enough points, they may be able to finish first or second, which means they'll be able to win the league. And I feel that if this prop is more agile, it will give them an advantage on the other teams, and they may be able to win. In the first and second week, I will do it 2 times a week, just so the player is comfortable and understands and gets used to the training. In the 3rd and 4th week, it will be 3 times, and the 5th and 6th it will be 4 times. This will be progression, and it prevents overload. Because of the frequency of 1 to 2 weeks, 3 to 4, and 5 to 6, being 2, 3, 4, I've decided that week 1 and 2 will be 20 minutes, week 3 and 4 will be 25 minutes, week 5 and 6 will be 30. This shows progression and prevents overload. The type, there will be variation in the ladder techniques. There will be such as sidestepping, 1 step in each segment, double running, which prevents the test becoming tedious, and it's specific, which follows into sport. Sport stands for specific, progression, overload, reversibility and tedium. To make it specific, I will do ladder variation. To progress it, I will change frequency and intensity to higher levels, so that it becomes harder and lasts longer. To prevent overload, I will give the player a training rest on Sunday, so he is able to rest and just cool down from all the exercise, because he will also have team training along with the agility test. To prevent reversibility, it will be continuous for 6 weeks with no break, and to make it not tedious, there will be ladder variation. For participation and progress from grassroots to professional, from 4 to 12 there would be tag rugby, which involves a velcro strip on the player's waist which you can pull. This is because of health and safety, because they're only 4, and it depends on your experience. It's affiliation with the game of rugby and the rules, but it's also more about fun than contact, and more about fun than actually winning. From then on, it's touch rugby from 9 over, because adults still play it. There's competitive leagues. This is again affiliation, and it can often be used for training, such as agility training. From then on, there would be school extracurricular activities, such as inter-school leagues and West Yorkshire leagues. Then there is local rugby clubs such as Harrell's Pigeons, East Leeds, which offer an inter-local area league for a membership price of £160. This is full contact from under 9s, under 14s, under 16s, under 18s and over 18s. From the ages of 14 to 16, you can be scouted for league clubs and go training with them, such as Castleford, Hunslet Hawks and other Championship and Premier League teams. From then on, you can join their academy, and after 2 years you become a first team player. But if you don't become a first team player, then you can still have the opportunity to join a semi-professional, such as Featherstone Rovers and Hunslet Hawks. The health and fitness benefits of rugby league are a reduced risk of osteoporosis, as it's a contact sport, increased cardiovascular endurance, muscle hypertrophy, and the negative impacts would be an increased risk of osteoarthritis, repetitive strain injury, DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness. There is also social benefits such as intrinsic and extrinsic rewards, intangible and tangible. Intrinsic is emotional and cathartic feelings. Extrinsic is medals or praise. And there would also be the friendship side, because you're in a team, you're developing friends. And also, because it's a contact sport and it can often be violent, you can also get a release of mental build-up of anger.